clear backlog, and I must state this. I went to Mandara when we were transiting from the COVID. We were transiting from the COVID, and I found that one of the things I found at that station is there was a, in terms of filing of returns, there was a problem because that is one of the court which was mostly affected by COVID, because it's a court which would be closed for 14 days. So there was that problem of filing of the returns. And actually, I remember the inaugural meeting of the Honorable the CJ with the head of stations. She questioned what is wrong with Mandara, and I managed to put my team together. We managed to against the registrar automation. I had people to be trained, and we managed to bring our data together. And I can say, by the time I was leaving that station, the data was actually in order, and we were performing very well. I must also say that we had a shortage of space in Mandara, and I against the Directorate of Building Services. We created a space in the court. We also, there was no parking. I mean, there was parking, but there was no shade for the parking, and notwithstanding the edge of that court, but we managed to come up with the a parking. Over and above that, in my course of duty, I've been very diligent in administration of justice in the courts where I've worked. I've demonstrated impartiality, and have the intellectual capacity to do justice. And my policy and my philosophy of law and as a judicial officer is that I am a person who is who revolves around the administration of justice with impartiality, not being guided by any other interest other by the interest of justice, and for that matter, social justice. Honorable Commissioner.
Okay, my final question now.
Yes.
Because you see, we are looking for a judge,
Yes.
who create an impact, particularly in resolution of disputes. Now, what is it that you think you'll be able to do, and that you've already done, that will ensure that even as you resolve those disputes, firstly, it's expeditious, but also you're able, the quality of the justice itself is also not compromised? Yeah. And in answering that question, give specific examples of matters that you've handled that you thought were challenging, but you handled them in an expeditious manner, and that the decisions that were ultimately delivered met, that standard of quality, the quality assurance.
Thank you, commissioners. I think I'll start by saying that when I was in the Mandara law courts, and just recently before I was moved, there was a demonstration going around across the country, and people were being arrested, brought to court. There was a lot of pressure on both the judicial officers and even the other stakeholders in the justice system. And one of the matters which was brought before me was the matter involving MATIANG'I, and it was brought there together with others. And it is a matter which attracted a lot of interest, and the advocates were so many who appeared in that matter. It was a battery of advocates. We are talking about over 10 advocates, and all of them wanted to address the court. There was also, on the part of the Director of Public Prosecution, they brought quite a number of prosecution counsels, and the issue was, they came for plea. The issue was the bond, the preliminary issues which are raised. They raised the issues about whether the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution is properly constituted, because by then the DPP had been appointed to another position, and there was no substantive DPP. That was one of the preliminary issue which was raised. They also raised the issues of the charges, whether the charges were properly before the court. They also raised the issue of the violation of the rights of the suspects who had been brought to court then. And there was a lot of pressure, as I've said, and I managed to withstand that pressure. I made a preliminary rulings in that matter, before they could take plea, and I said that they must go ahead and take plea. And even after taking plea, there was an application by the Director of Public Prosecution to oppose bond. And that is a matter which, because as I've said, there are so many advocates, and Mandara, for those who have worked there, like my colleague, Honorable Commissioner Olwande, it is a busy station, but I managed to deal with that matter, and at the same time, deal with also with my cost list, and I reserved my ruling to the following day, and I gave my ruling as it were. I can as well give another example, Commissioner, if you allow me. When I was in Mombasa, I handled terrorist matters, and one of the matters which I inherited from my predecessor who were there was a matter where some suspect had been arrested with some explosive. The allegation was they were found with explosives, and it's a matter which I found. I looked at the file. When I went there, I perused the file, and I found that it is a matter where there was a lot of public interest from the top, because when as I was looking at the file, I saw a communication from the office of the president then by Mr. Kinyua, and you know, when you see that such a kind of communication and you are handling the matter, you will feel like there's a lot of pressure and you can feel intimidated. But notwithstanding that, I managed to deal with that matter. I gave my judgment. I convicted one of the person who was accused. The other one I acquitted, and I think, and I did that expeditiously. Similarly, Commissioner, when
yeah, that's enough. At least you've, okay. I think you've acquitted yourself.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, my lady. Good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon to you, Your Honor.
Yes, I want to say here now that we practiced together in Mombasa.
Yeah.
And yes, I also worked in Makadara, and what you say about Makadara is indeed true. The area I want to engage you on is on civil law.
Yes.
Okay, before we get there, what do you understand by the term standard of proof?
The standard of proof is, I would say, I would distinguish. Let me just distinguish it, because the standard of proof and the burden. The standard of proof is the level of proof which is required in a particular case.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's enough.
Thank you.
So now, what is the standard of proof in a traffic case?
The standard of proof in traffic case, I would say that first, I'll start by...
Sorry, let me just qualify that. In a criminal, I mean not criminal, but where someone has been charged for a traffic offense.
Yes. In answering that, Commissioner, I'll start by saying that a traffic offense is an offense of strict liability. And when it comes to the standard, I mean the burden of proof.
No, standard. I'm asking about standard.
The standard is that of beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay.
Because it is kind of a criminal offense.
Okay.
Yes.
Now I want to give you a scenario, and then you tell me
Yes.
how you would resolve that scenario.
Yes.
So a matter has been brought before you,
Yes.
and you have a matter pending before you for an accident case for damages.
Excuse me,
Sorry?
Just 1 minute. I'm not able to open. I don't know what's the problem. Yes. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, thank
So you have a case before you where someone has sued for damages
you. Yes.
in connection to an accident.
Yes.
And the defense that the defendant has brought, now it's a civil case.
Yeah.
The defense that the defendant has brought is that he was acquitted in relation to the traffic case where the standard of proof is higher, as you have said, beyond reasonable doubt.
Yes.
So he says you ought not to find him liable. How would you resolve that case?
Thank you, Commissioner. My position is that a mere acquittal and in a traffic offense does not necessarily make the person who caused the accident not liable when it comes to traffic. I mean, when it comes to a civil matter.
Why is that?
Yeah, because you are talking about negligence. Yeah, the person might have been acquitted, but at the same time, he might have been negligent in the way he drove the vehicle. Let me put it that way. Yes.
most probably, if it's an accident case, this person has probably been charged either with causing death or careless driving. There's an element of negligence in those two offenses.
Yes.
So why would you say that the fact that he was acquitted in the traffic case doesn't mean he is not culpable in terms of liability?
I'm saying that, Commissioner, because as I've said, the mere acquittal is not does not necessarily mean that the element of negligence is not there. In as much as the burden of, the standard of proof in civil matters is on balance of probability.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So why would you say that these people were one of the ingredients they were looking for in the careless driving or causing death is negligence, and they acquitted him?
Yes.
So why would you say that?
I'm saying that because one of the elements of causing death, it might not be negligence, it might be recklessness, but that one does not mean you are not negligent in the way you drove the vehicle.
Okay. Do you have any case law you can think of that is offering you that guidance?
I think as of now, I don't want to lie to the Commission that I have a case law in mind. But given the opportunity, I can, and of course, I do research, and I know it's an area where I can be able to go and research and be able to, of course, when I'm making my judgment, to be able to look at it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, my lady.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes. Now, you mentioned Makandara, and you said, I wrote to you and asked, what is the problem in Makandara? I think this panel would like to hear what is the problem of Makandara. What was so unique about Makandara? The corruption index in Makandara is higher than anything else. I remember we had to do even a memo, or is it guidelines on how to correct fines because of the corruption and the number of people being arrested, purveying money around their bribes. What is the problem of Makandara?
Thank you, Honorable CJ. Let me start by saying, what happened is, it was not, you did not write to me. What happened, there was the first inaugural meeting with the head of stations. I was in Makandara, and we were looking at the data, and Makandara was nil. Because, and as I've said, one of the problems of that data was because of the court was being closed during the COVID-19, and no returns were being sent to the depot, as it were.
So the first problem was returns.
Returns.
DCRT, or whatever we call it. They were not filing it.
Yes.
What is the next problem? Because Makandara has been
the next problem is, Makandara is, and I want to say this with a lot of respect to the commissioners, that Makandara is a very unique court in the first instance. It is only one of the criminal court in Kenya, and probably, I would say, in south of Sahara, which handles most of the criminal matters, and most of the people who come to Makandara, they are people from that part of the part of the city that is the Eastlands. And I would want to say that those are one of the most vulnerable people in our city, because you'll find all the people you'll find in that place, most of them are the poor people living in informal settlement.
Okay, so there are many poor people who cannot afford bail and board. What is the other problem? Because we have to move very fast.
Then the other problem is Makandara being what it is a court where you'll find, and I must say this without contradicting myself, that it is a court, and for those who have worked there will attest to it, is a court where there are so many brokers around. And I would say this, I managed to kind of deal with them, because it is only in Makandara where I managed to arrest advocates, people who pretended to be advocates. And I can say, as we are sitting, there are 3 cases which are pending in Makandara for people who have been masquerading as advocates. We managed to arrest them. We also managed to arrest brokers. There are some matters which are pending in that court of brokers. People are arrested for various reasons. They come and they lie to the members of the public that they can help them. And
so Law Society members are here. They can hear that they are masqueraders in Makandara who are masquerading as advocates. So they need to heighten their game there to have them nipped. and working with the court. So I think for the interest of time, we'll move to the other areas that we want to hear you on. And I will take you to Article 26 of the Constitution in respect to the right to life. First of all, when does life begin?
Thank
And
you.
then, after that, you will answer under what circumstances of the Constitution is abortion allowed.
Thank you, Honorable CJ and the commissioners. Life begins at the conception. And when it comes to when abortion can be allowed, it is when the health of the mother is at risk. Then the abortion can be allowed.
That is one, two.
And I think even when the health of the unborn is also at risk, abortion can be allowed.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. I'm not very sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Any other?
I think those are the one I can
Okay.
recall, Honorable CG.
Yes. You can refresh on that. We can move to arbitration.
Yes.
Under what circumstances does arbitration take place, and when can the court interfere with the arbitral award?
Thank you, Honorable CJ. An arbitration can take place where the parties have agreed that in case of any dispute which arises in either in a transaction, they would refer the matter to the arbitration.